Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. It's your girl, Cheska, back at it again with another homeschooling vlog. But today's topic, or should I say tonight's topic, because I'm already in my pajamas, it's a little bit different. It's not what we usually had, it's not history, it's not science either. But then it's English, specifically about literature. Now, I just realized I didn't do any homeschooling vlog about literature yet. So this is probably going to be a new series where I cover different literature, books, types of stories, and let me know if you like that. Well, what's our topic for today, Cheska? Our topic for today is the importance of literature, the importance of short stories, to be specific. Now, we all know literature is important. We all have it in our school. We have it in English, in language, apart from math and science. But did you know that it can be broken apart into subtypes, which is short stories? And did you know that the short stories that you were made to read back then actually played a huge part in creating society? Well, let's dive into the origin of short stories. Now, origin of short stories. Short stories began ever since before man learned how to write. Before we could write, we were already telling tales of vicious beasts that attacked in the night. Because when you look at ancient history, specifically prehistoric Philippines, we see markings on the wall, cave writings that inscripted that there was a man fighting a beast. But even before we could draw or write that, we were already passing it by mouth. Not we specifically, maybe my
many months later,
great grandma. Okay. But did you know that early and ancient storytellers relied on these following things? Stock phrases, fixed rhythm, and rhymes. That's why when you hear Philippine folk tales or old songs, especially ancient ones, they have a specific rhythm and rhyme. So guys, go ahead and listen to your favorite folk song right now and tell me if you like it or not. Now, did you know the oldest tale in history is the Epic of Gilgamesh? To my fellow MOH students, you know the Epic of Gilgamesh. It's based on a cuneiform writing that was found back then.
What's MOH?
Mystery of history. By the way, I'm going to plug in something here. To all of the first-time homeschoolers watching this, if you know and if you watch my previous vlogs, then you know that this is already my presentation, my performance task basically. But this time, it's for language arts, English, literature, reading. They're all connected. Okay, anyways. From Egypt to India, their literature. The earliest tales in Egypt were comprised in papyrus, and their narratives consisted of prose, religious hymns, and working songs. The shipwrecked sailor was specifically made for aristocratic families to deliver the message of hope and positivity. Now, before we could go on, what is prose? Well, literature can be divided into two parts, so there's poetry and there's prose. Poetry is basically fixed rhythms and rhymes, while prose is just everything else. Wow, they didn't do a good job of dividing that. Anyways, India's earliest tales focus on surrounding its morals on animals, maybe like Aesop's fables. And their oldest tale naman is Panchatantra, which is a it's a mixture of fable and tale, which is a fable where a crab outsmarts a bird. You can read it online actually for free. That's the best part of short stories. You can read it online for free. And did you know that the Greeks actually, I'll tell you something, they took some of India's fables and they translated it and turned it to Aesop's fables. I'm not saying they plagiarized it, okay? Don't come for me, history police, but they kind of did a little bit, based on history, but what do I know? I wasn't there. Now that we know the origin of our stories, shall we move on to the next one? Okay. the value of short stories in our society. Now, before I could go on any further, please do not be intimidated by the phrase that I just said, because you actually are the value of short stories in society. You are a short story. The value of short stories in society rely on these factors. As you may know, short stories have been around ever since the beginning of time. You know, they were told by older generations, by my great-great-great-great-grandma to my great-great-great-great-grandma, and so on and so forth. But short stories were preferred and were popular until the 17th to 18th century, when novels were rising in the West. So when the novels were rising, the short stories were declining. But they got back up. They got back up, which is good, because short stories are the best. But the value of short stories in society can be centered on its cultural and historical roots. Like I said, since short stories have been around since the beginning of time, they molded an entire nation, entire country, society, people into something, you know. Since short stories are passed through mouth, they can also be passed because of tradition and culture, which I think is very important. And that's it. That's also the importance of short stories in our society, because they hold cultural and traditional value. I mean, let's say, have you been with your Lola? You know, I bet your Lola has told you stories about her being a young kid with her great-great-Lola as a moth flying around the house, and you believed it, right? Well, that's a part of a short story. That is a short story. But next, I think we're getting too deep into the value of short stories. I'll leave you to decide on what's the value of short stories for yourself. What makes a short story? A brief analysis by me, Cheska Rojas.
Well, it's not really me, it's just based on the research that I did and what was the most popular analysis, and I just combined it all together because research is the key, and I also added some of my opinion. So bye.
So, a short story, based on Wikipedia, is a piece of prose fiction that typically can be read in one sitting and focuses on a self-contained incident or series of linked incidents with the intent of evoking a single effect or mood. Thank you, Wikipedia. You are so reliable. I love you so much. But guys, like I said, after you read a short story, you only have 3 moods, okay? Based on my experience, either you feel happy, you feel sad, or you feel that you have an existential crisis. It's either one of those 3. There's no in between. But usually, there are 4 to 5 elements that make up a good short story. What are they, you say? Here, let me show you. So it's character, of course, plot, setting, tension, and theme. Now, before I could go on any further, why 4 to 5 elements? If you search elements that make up a good short story, generally, the things that you will see, 10 elements that make up a good short story, 100 elements, 1,000 elements, 5 elements that make up a good story. So this is based on the most popular elements given. So I just computed it with my mind. And technically, since short stories are a genre rather than a type of literature, they are developing every day. New literature, new short stories are developing every day. So that's great. Now that we know about what makes up a short story, types of ancient brief narratives. Here. Narratives or short stories in the ancient times were made out of jests, anecdotes, myths, fairy tales. I didn't put it here, I forgot to mention earlier, but it was also religious hymns and ritualistic chants. So ritualistic chants were a big thing in Africa, which is why they have one of the most richest literature in the world, because their ritualistic chants are just amazing. Did I mention the Philippines has a death chant somewhere in the Visayas? Yes, look it up. It's such a good ritualistic death chant. Now that we're done with this, maybe I should give you a little bit of local literature, you know, what to read. Well, I would personally recommend Why the Piña Has 100 Eyes. You know, something simple, something light. And then transition into The Monkey and the Turtle by none other than Dr. Jose Rizal. You good there, Dr. Jose Rizal? Watch my other vlog, guys. It's great. And Ang Gintong Habihan, a collection of Palanca Award-winning tales that you can buy from me. You can buy them from me. Or if you won't buy them, at least view this 10 times. Jeez, help me out. Oh, Sorry, I'm getting too far from the topic. Now that we're done with short stories and all of its technicalities, shall we move on to a different subtype of it? Short story. So a short story also has an impressionist story. But what's an impressionist story? Impressionism is a type of short story that focuses on the impressions registered by the minds of the narrator by events happening rather than focusing on the objective reality of the event. Basically, the story is revolved around the narrator and what's going on in his mind rather than what's happening. So let's say, and I felt a huge headache after I saw what my cousin did to my mom, rather than he was sad because of what his cousin did to his mom. You see the difference? A little bit more emotion in there. But who made this popular? American writers during the late 1800s like Edgar Allan Poe, Henry James, Herman Melville, and Mark Twain. But Edgar Allan Poe, I love you so much, rest in peace. They were the ones who made it popular. Maybe you want to read it. Maybe you're interested into what Impressionism is. Well, here are some recommendations. The Telltale Heart by Edgar Allan Poe. My book club and I covered that last week. And Bartleby, the Scrivener, by Herman Melville. Now that we're done with this, it's time to give you stories and lessons that you can learn from short stories. Now here's a list of short stories that I've read. Anton Chekhov, The Lottery Ticket. If you want to read something that describes greed and how overthinking can lead to doubt and how you can destroy a relationship with your wife because you're so greedy and you want all the money to yourself because you don't want to go with her family and you don't want to go to India with her family, then this is the perfect book for you. Very easy. Now, next you have The Lady with a Dog, and if you want a book where lust can be fleeting and you want an adventure and you're cheating on your wife, man, Anton Chekhov has a thing with wives, does he? You read this. We have Arthur Conan Doyle. Maybe you guys recognize him. He is the author of the famous Sherlock Holmes. If you want to read something with motive, a different motive for murder, and if you want to learn that passion is stronger than fear, A Study in Scarlet is for you. Now finally, Edgar Allan Poe, my ultimate favorite writer of all time in the history of the universe and of literature. Here are the books you should read. So The Pit and the Pendulum discovers that the mind and emotion is incredibly complex and can react gracefully under pressure. And also taught me that death is much more preferable than torture. I mean, who would wanna, be tortured? And it also gave me a clear overview that death can be different from dying. Both are different things. Because when you're dead, you're dead. And when you're dying, you're dying. That was the most bad analogy ever. And spiritual and physical means can be connected if you have a strong mental breakdown. And finally, the last tale. Read this, okay? Read this, but not at night because it's scary. The Telltale Heart. Now, to all of my high school kids watching this, does this book sound familiar? Yes, it does. I bet you've been asked to read this. It reveals the two sides actually, of human sanity, and it has three major ethical issues. Fear because of hate, or hate because of fear, murder because of fear, and finally, the story and the lesson that one cannot escape their own conscience. I think that's it. Should we wrap up? Oh, in conclusion, therefore, I conclude that literature, short stories to be exact, do indeed play a huge part in society and building it up, just like it did when they're building nations, cultures, traditions, and it molded literature into what it is today and will continue to do so. Oh, shall I end it with a saying that my teacher said? If you want to change a country, change its narratives. African saying. What did I tell you? They have good literature stuff over there. Now, for local literature, like I said earlier, I'm going to put a list down here on what local literature you can read. Because if you want to change a country, change its narratives. Guys, did you know that the media we are consuming, either from Korea, from the West, from Japan, it drives us away from our culture, from our cultures and roots. And I'm not going to be a hypocrite and say that I read Philippine literature 24/7, but I do appreciate Philippine literature, I do appreciate Philippine authors. Their work is just dare I say even better than those of Western and other foreign writers. Oh, Philippine pride. And if you want to check out some local literature, why not? Actually, I'm going to leave a link down below of good authors and good publishers if you want to read them. But just so you know, if you read local literature, it really ignites something in you, you know. It makes you feel proud of your country because local literature is the best. Now that's it. That's it. Oh, a bonus for those watching this, since this is a new vlog. Guys, enhance your assessing skills for books with people. So join a book club. Join a book club so that you're better in dissecting books. And the best way to understand a book is to dissect it chapter by chapter, the ones you hate, the ones you love, and come to a conclusion whether or not this book is impactful to society. And finally, my last tip for you all before I end this video, join a book club. Okay guys, that's all for this video. I hope Oh right. Shameless plug over here. I have a book club. Well, it's not my book club, but I'm in a book club and we really need members. So if you want to join the book club, we need you. Hi to my fellow booklet members. How are you? I will leave a link down in the description to join the book club. And my teacher, teacher Grace Dalsel, she's the one who facilitates the book club. She's amazing. She comes up with all these good questions and these discussions, so I'm really grateful for her, because if she didn't start this book club, I wouldn't have been as infatuated with literature as I am today. So guys, I hope this video inspired you to take a look at literature or even local literature and inspired you to maybe start changing your own narrative. That's all for today. Once again, I am Cheska Rojas, and have a good night!